cosine cosine plus sine sine means that you want the difference identity. You're going to write cosine of 34 minus 13 or cosine of 21 degrees. The next one, you have cosine cosine minus sine sine. That becomes your cosine sum identity. So you're going to add the numbers, but that one number is a -3. So instead of 12 plus 3, it's 12 plus a -3, which is 9. So it's the cosine of 9 degrees. You okay with those?
Yeah.
The next set are the ones that you're also these are called cofunction identities. And you're going to need to have those in your note-taking as well. And if you're going to rewrite the cosine using the cofunction, well, all of these are pi over 2, and 44 is in degrees. So 90 degrees minus 44 is 46 degrees. Okay? Now, if I look at my cofunction and I have cosine, cosine is the cofunction of sine. So 90 minus the 44 is the same as the sine of 46. Think about your right triangle. If you have 90 degrees and one angle is 44, the other angle is 46, correct? Your hypotenuse is going to be the same. So the sine of one of your angles is going to be the same as the cosine of the other one. So that's what the cofunction is saying. Now, how do you utilize everything that you just learned to rewrite with your identities? Well, you have sine 85, sine 40, sine -5, sine -50. Well, your identities that you had at the beginning were cosine, cosine, sine, sine. Since I already have this side as a sine, sine, I need to convert these two to cosines. So I'm going to use my cofunction. 85 from 90 is 5. 90 minus 40 is 50. So now it's cosine 5, cosine 50. Those two stays the same. Our odd even identity says that the sign of the negative values come out to the front. Well, a negative and a negative is a positive still. So now I have cosine 5, cosine 50 plus. So we're going to have to do what to 5 and 50? And 5 minus 50, and I added. You're supposed to subtract. 5 minus 50 is a -45, but the even odd identity says the cosine of a negative is the same as the cosine of the positive. And I will try not to use green anymore because it's hard to read. Both of these were negative. So when you pull the negative out front and you pull the negative out front, a negative times the negative is a positive. All right, let's move down to this find the exact value. If I have sine and cosine and I need to find the exact value of this difference problem, go ahead and write out what is the identity when you have the difference. Cosine of alpha, cosine of beta, plus sine of alpha, sine of beta. Now, plug in what you know. I know the sine of alpha is a -4/5. And I know the cosine of beta is 12/13. I do not have the cosine of alpha or the sine of beta. Can anybody tell me how I'm going to find them? If I'm given the sine of alpha is 4/5, and I'm given my cosine of beta as 12/13. How do I find the cosine of alpha?
Could you do like the formula?
And what formula?
Some course, another course.
Okay, so what do I need? The adjacent side.
Yeah.
I have a 4 and a 5. How do I find the other side?
Like square plus 10 squared.
You could use the Pythagorean theorem. Does anybody know your Pythagorean triples? If you know the Pythagorean triple, you know that this is a 3. If you don't, then you're going to have to do adjacent side squared. 9 equals a squared, square root is 3. I now know the cosine is 3/5. So my cosine of alpha is 3/5. I need sine of the beta. I come back over here and I've got beta. How do I find this one? Well, the same thing, the Pythagorean theorem. 13 squared minus 12 squared equals my opposite side squared. 169 minus 144 is 25. The square root of 25 is 5. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so 5/13. And this is all multiplying, so you don't need a common denominator. You also have the access to your calculator, so you can multiply all of those together at the same time if you want to. And make sure you do a math fraction inner so that you don't have crazy decimal. Did everybody get 16/65? Okay, now there's something else that we need to go back and double check. That very last line says alpha is in the third quadrant. So no, we don't get 16/65. If alpha is in the third quadrant, then cosine is negative in the third quadrant. And beta is in the fourth quadrant. Sine is negative in the fourth quadrant. Isn't it? So I need to go back and change my 3/5 to a negative 3/5 and my 5/13 to a negative, which is a negative 16/65. You good? Okay. Write as a function alone. I'm going to use my cosine of 180, cosine of alpha, minus the sine of 180, sine of alpha. What is the cosine of 180 degrees? -1. What is the sine of 180 degrees? 0 times anything is 0. That whole thing goes away. Negative cosine alpha. Any questions? Are we good? Till you have to do it on your own, is that? Okay, we're going to verify these identities. Verify means that you are going to get the other side. So you're going to work, again, one side into the other. Okay? I have cosine of x plus y. I'm going to use my new identity that I have. Cosine of x, cosine of y, minus the sine of x, sine of y. And I'm over cosine of x cosine of y. Now, typically, when you have a fraction, the whole top is divided by the whole thing, right? I'm going to skip a step here because I notice on the other side I have a 1. So instead of having a common denominator and writing my numerator all together, I'm going to break it apart into 2 separate fractions. Are you okay with me doing that? Anything divided by itself is 1. What is sine over cosine?
Tangent.
And sine over cosine is tangent, and yay, that equals the other side.